Talk. The NFL season is officially in the books, and we have our NFL insider, Lake Lewis Jr., here to break down the big game and, well, an interesting game, guess, to say the least. But, Lake, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself, Natalie?
I'm doing well, but yes, let's dive right into football's biggest night. I mean, just looking at the final score in itself, 40-22 in favor of the Eagles. Perhaps a final score not a lot of us anticipated in terms of a game that was going to be that out of reach for Kansas City. But what are your thoughts on football's biggest night?
Yeah, 40-22 is actually making it look close. But it was much worse than that. And it was surprising the way Philadelphia just dismantled Kansas City. Kansas City was going for that, elusive three-peat that no one's ever done. And now we're going to have to wait, God knows how long for that to happen, if it ever will happen, because Philadelphia clearly was the best team, not just on the night, but I think if you look at overall their body of work on the season, they were the most complete team in the NFL from all facets of the ball, and they deserved the win, and they got it big time.
Yeah, and in terms of, we hear a lot about complimentary football from head coach Dan Quinn all throughout the season. But when you look at, you mentioned the body of work just in this one night, Super Bowl 59, offense, defense, but I mean, everyone was firing on all cylinders, and there was truly nothing Kansas City could do at this point.
No, it wasn't. I mean, you can probably even go to the coaching. Surprisingly, Kansas City, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, they got outcoached by Nick Sirianni and company in Philadelphia. So it was just the ultimate complete team effort. And regardless if the Eagles are in the NFC East, and some of our fans here watching hate the Eagles, I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due. And like I keep telling people, it's not a bad thing to say that you lost to the Super Bowl champion and you beat the Super Bowl champion if you're the Commanders.
I was going to say the Commanders were the last team to beat the Super Bowl champion. So I think that says at least a little something. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
so glad you brought up the coaching, just competition there, because, the words outcoached and Kansas City perhaps never go in the same sentence, but that was simply what happened. I mean, and even when it was halftime, 24-0 in favor of the Eagles, you expected Kansas City was going to come out hot in the second half and that this game wasn't quite over yet. But that was simply not the case.
Yeah, it almost seemed like, not to put words in Andy Reid's mouth or anything, he's a Hall of Fame coach, one of the top two or three ever. But it seemed like their game plan was just to put it all on Patrick Mahomes, and they didn't run the football at all. Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt. You would think that the blueprint against Philadelphia would be to kind of get those four guys up front tired, but they didn't do it, and they let them pin their ears back all game, and that was surprising to me. Philadelphia didn't blitz one time in this football game. Their front four wreaked havoc, and it allowed them to have seven guys back, picking off Patrick Mahomes and causing problems in their passing game, and it worked to perfection.
Yeah, I mean, simply the cliche statement in all of sports is that defense wins championships, and we saw it on full display on Sunday. And it's hard to not play that comparison game when you have the two best teams in the league going head to head in the biggest game of the season. And there's a sense of, what do the Eagles and Chiefs have that right now the Commanders don't have? And it sounds like you're saying just that defensive front.
Yeah, I mean, the defense in general. I think if you look at the two rookies in the secondary, Cooper DeJean and Mitchell, those guys came right into their system and put their names in the lights, in the headlines. And I think for Washington, you have some young pieces in play on defense, but you don't have that pass, I guess a pass rusher that wreaks havoc. You don't have that yet. And obviously the name Myles Garrett floats out there, or maybe the guy from Oakland, or from the Raiders, Max Crosby. I think that there are guys that are out there that Washington to take a good hard look at. If you have a guy that constantly puts pressure on opposing teams' quarterbacks, it makes everyone behind them play that much better. So I don't think Washington's that far off, Natalie. I don't. I think that they're right there, but they need to go out and get themselves someone that's going to make opposing quarterbacks uncomfortable in the pocket, play after play.
Yeah, and we've constantly heard from Adam Peters, building through the draft, using their draft picks. But you're sounding like you're saying that you need to be taking a look at the guys that are already established as stellar pass rushers in the NFL in order to essentially build up and bulk up that defensive front.
Yeah, because think about it, Natalie. When you're picking where Washington's picking now, they're picking 29th. It's not like you're picking number two like last year where Jaden was right there for you. This is now coming down to Adam Peters having to know what he's doing, and we all think he does know what he's doing. But you can't miss on these picks now because this is what's going to either make you closer to Philadelphia or it's going to further push you a further away from them. And I do think that if you're Washington again, you just got to the NFC Championship game, and I've been saying, Natalie, this all year. Their talent grade was probably like a 70 at best, as far as just 1 through 53 collectively on average. But I think when you look at Philadelphia, their talent grade is probably like a 95, 96. I think that if you're Washington and you get some of those guys on defense, you'll close the gap quickly. And then, of course, the offense, as deficient on talent as we've said they were, some places across the offensive line, maybe at running back, not having the home run threat there, they still were in the NFC Championship game and they still had a top five offense. So if you can get a couple more playmakers on offense, that's going to be fine because number five is there and that makes everyone better. So I think Washington has their work cut out for them. Philadelphia clearly is the best team in football, and they proved that Sunday. And they're clearly the best team in the NFC. But I think Washington can, make a claim that why not us to be the second best or the third best, which gives them a chance to play against Philadelphia.
All right. Good stuff as always from Lake Lewis Jr. Thank you for joining us and thank you for being our guy all season long. We always appreciate it, Lake.
All right, thank you.
All right. Stay with us. More Toyota Sports Talk coming up on the other side of the break.